I think we're ready to go. I'm just going to make one quick suggestion, by the way, because I noticed in the back room, the show and tell, I think the acoustics in this room kind of are not as good as our old room. No. And so just I'd watch the idle chit chat just because it really does, this room I think sort of deadens the sound. So it'll help us all here if we do that.
Well, I've never been accused of talking lightly, so. Well, one of the things that I thought of, I've never done before, is show how I make a pattern, because that's usually how everything starts. And Tom said that he showed how to make a pattern of a bird. You know, I know you guys are a lot of bird guys, and you know, I've never felt the need, you know, I watched bird seminars and stuff because I can always learn some technique or something. And I don't know if this can transfer into, you know, if you get a bird, how to make a pattern, but maybe there's a tip or a technique that I'm going to do, and you'll go, oh yeah, I never thought of doing it like that. So first thing, and feel free, you know, I've been doing taxidermy for over 30 years, so if you have any questions about taxidermy, like how to preserve a bird or anything, feel free just to ask. So this is a yellow perch, donated by Zha Zhang, I think his name is. He caught this in St. Paul. And what I'm doing right here is I'm just wiping off the borax that I put on there. And if you catch a fish and you think you're going to have it mounted, it's always nice to have a little thing of borax, you know, in your boat, in your tackle box, whatever. That 30 mule team, you can just buy it in the grocery store. And just put it.
What does that do?
It preserves it. It keeps the color. You know when you put a fish in the live well and it starts changing colors and it gets all bleached out? Okay, so I caught a brown trout, which is notorious for just bleaching out, like almost immediately. Like if you catch one and then put it on the grass and you're getting, you know, everything all situated and you come back to it and you turn it over, it's already starting to get marks where the grass is. Well, if you put this borax on there, I put one, I caught a 22 incher and I put it in borax, wrapped it up in the plastic bags. I take a garbage bag and then a little baggie like this, and then, you know, I put about that much borax in it, and then I put that in the baggie, roll it up, put it in my backpack, and I'm good to go. Or I have one in the boat. You just never know. So it's like shake and bake. You take it and you put it in there and you lift up the fins, get it underneath there. So I put that one in my backpack. And then I had another one I caught, and I put it on a stringer because I was, you know, I wanted just to eat. I was going to smoke it, and it was about a 20 incher. When I got home, that 20 incher was almost completely white. And when I took the one, and it was starting to lose scales and everything, it was just a really hot day. It was really, you know, I didn't have ice or anything. It was probably shouldn't have kept it, but I did. Anyway, I took that one out of my backpack and rinsed it off. When I got home, it looked like I just caught it, and I caught it 3 hours before the other one. So borax works great. Another story about that is had a bass in borax. Had it in the freezer, had the freezer go out. It was my own personal freezer, so of course I didn't check it, you know, like I do the, you know, my customer stuff. And open up, whoa. You know, everything in it was soup, except for that bass. I actually mounted it. So all the other fish deteriorated, were so far gone, they were just nothing but scales and some bones. And the one with the borax in there, I actually mounted. So that's a testament to how that works. Okay. So when I make a pattern, you know, I wipe it off as dry as, you know, possible. I'm a dumpster driver from a long ways away, so I got a whole bunch of these things. They were some kind of display deals for like skyline display, so it's pretty tough plastic. So this is what I use to make patterns for, you know, longevity. Otherwise, I just take pieces of cardboard, you know, like this, or the laminated stuff like a poster board, you know, that you can find, like liquor stores usually have them, and they're kind of waxy. Something that doesn't get wet. This isn't the best, but it works. Okay, so you want to put your fish down, and then you got, you know, all your fins are going to be like that. Don't worry about these fins or these fins, because we're going to do something different. So what I do is it basically, I mean, it's just as simple as tracing the fish. And you have to use, you're not gonna get it perfect 100%. So you're gonna do some artistic license here and there. And you try not to move. Like, see, I got this fin open, so I want to do this whole thing without having it move. And then I'm going to come and right here and right to there. Okay, now I can let that go because I'm all done with that. A lot of times, you don't know what how many fin rays they have. So a good thing now is you count them, and I always start right in the center here, and then I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I know on this section I'm going to have 9, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 on this one. Happens to have 9. Sometimes the bottom fin has 1 more. In this case, it doesn't. Okay, so then I'm going to hold this open. And a lot of times I'll hold it with a pin. Of course, I forgot a pin. I'm going to go like that, and then I know there's a spine here, come, and another spine. Follow the fish. And it's good to do this, as you can see, from a bird's eye view. Okay, so now I got this spiny dorsal. If you want to come up here too, it's a little easier to see what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm just looking down and I'm just trying to follow the whole thing. Now right here, I've got this dorsal fin, and this is where you got to use some kind of artistic license. And you're carving and you're doing stuff that a lot of people don't do. So you have to have a little bit of an artistic ability here. And just I'm following the top of this line, but even though I can't see it. So, yeah, right. So, right, and then also right here too, I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna go like that. Right here, this is where the flesh ends. And I'm gonna put a line here, and I'm gonna put a line here, because I can see the line goes this way, and then it's straight. So then I'm going to put a line out here and a line out here, and I'll get back to that later. Now, right here, this is where this fin's going to be. Here's the back of the gill plate. That's going to be right here. Then the top of the gill plate is going to be right here, and I draw a line. Now, in the bird thing, I think you can transfer this one. Here's the eye. So I'm going to come here and go like this. And now I know I intersect that, and that's going to be the center of where the eye is supposed to be. So now I have this. This one is right here. So this gill plate, I'm going to put right here. Okay, and this is where, let's see, I got to sit down on this one. So this is where you got to have the artistic license too. So I'm going to come in here, and I know that's there. I'm going to move my fish, whatever goo. Okay, yeah. I'm supposed to be wearing these gloves so I didn't come home smelling like fish, because my wife's going to accuse me of going fishing instead of being here. Okay, so this was the top right here. This one is this fin right here. This one is the end of that gill. So now I know if I come here and I draw this, it's gonna go up like that. I forgot to draw the line here, but I've done it enough. Just pretend I have a line out there. So like that, and then it comes in and goes around. This was my eye. So that would be that. Then you got the mouth. So that's going to come. I forgot to draw the line for that one too. But you can see that's right here by the eye. So this has got to come to right there. And there's always just a little thing right here. That's that. You probably know that.
I make mine pretty folky.
Okay. So here,
Quite that detailed.
this right here, this is where this goes, and then I'm going to use some artistic license here. Boom. Then I know I've got a plate that comes here and goes back, and then one that goes that way. So that's basically what you do. That's all one piece. Okay? So then I take the fish and I go like this.
Shouldn't be too hard.
You need Allen wrenches or something.
Yeah, I got Allen wrenches.
Maybe I'll give you a call a week or so here if I got a couple spare beads, I'll look you up or something.
Yeah.
That's that fin. And this one's a little tricky, a little trickier. I'm gonna have to do a left-handed. Then you got to clean it up too a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of your basics. Then what you want to do is you want to go, here's the lateral line is right here. I think these guys got a few lateral lines actually. I haven't studied these fish. This is the first one I've actually held, but it looks like there's a lateral line here, a lateral line here, here, here. It seems to be. They usually only have one. These fish must be really hypersensitive or something. So I just know from doing it so much, you know, it follows the back, and I'm just going to do the one. So if we just follow the back, like so, keeping it the same distance. And now we're back here. I'm going to draw that line, and then come across there. So now I can erase those. That's kind of the basic how I do the pattern of a fish.
What were these ones?
These, okay, so when the tail, so you see the fleshy part of the tail here?
Yep.
So I drew the line, because you can see there's the line there.
Yep.
And most fish all have that, and then it ends right there. So then I drew it there, and that's what I connected was that.
Okay.
So now that's your fleshy part, and the bone, you know, the fin rays come all the way to here.
Okay. And then this you'll kind of round out?
No, actually it's very slight.
round.
And they change from fish to fish. Some fish are actually, they go square, and some do make this type of deal. Like some fish will come all the way right here and then go like that. Your trout and salmon do that more. Okay, so now I've got this. The other thing you want to do is when people make patterns, they stop right there and they go, oh, okay. Then all of a sudden they go, well, how big was the scale? Well, you've got it right here. So now I'm gonna just go, I got a scale, and that's how big my scale should be. And I freehand all my scales with a wood burner. I don't use a fixed.
Right.
Some use a stick.
Right, because see how big those scales are right there? Look at these scales, how small they get. They get almost microscopic as they get up front. So I'm gonna come up here and draw, because they're this small. And when I do that, my pencil is a wood burner, okay? So I draw a scale, and scales are in thirds. So you got 1, 2, 3, there's 3 sections, and that's how they normally start. And I always like to say, it's a rule. The rules are meant to be broken, so all of a sudden you'll get one, and the scales actually go like this, so, but watch this. So if I'm wood burning, and normally I do it this way. So I'll just sneak a scale in here.
Get a little closer. Sure.
And look at how I just transitioned into a smaller scale. And then come in here, and I can go back to my bigger scales.
I don't know if it's true of that particular fish, Scott, but anyway, I do still do a lot of sunfish and crappie, but that lateral line is usually the center of the scale.
Right, that is the center of the scale. And
But you try to get that to make that rotation, so you need to be flexible as how you blend your scales together to make that come out.
well, when I carve, okay, and I've learned this, now here's the thing, just because it's a different technique or a different thing. At the Northern Nationals a long time ago, a guy did a seminar and he was doing frogs and turtles, okay? And his frogs were awesome. I mean, they were crazy. And it's like, well, how do you get all those bumps and all those warts? So he took his wood and he had a piece of metal rounded off, and he pushed that deal, and he made all these dimples, and then he sanded it all till it was smooth again. Then he put it in water, and they all raised. Boop, 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 boop. So my lateral line, I have a little burnisher, and I go and I draw that line in, and then I take a pencil and I put a pencil on just so I can see, and then I sand it until the pencil is just leaves, and then I take and wet it down, and then that pops up. But not until after I burn all the scales in. And I have that pencil line there, so I can make sure that the lateral line is on half on a scale. And then when I wet it, it raises and it's perfect. And I had like 3 guys come up to me, when I started fish carving way back 30 years ago. It was in its infancy. They didn't have rules for competitions or anything, I was part of that. And so any techniques any of us found, and we saw someone else do it, like, so I had like 3, 4 guys come up to me, how'd you do that lateral line? Oh my God, because it was, you take the burnisher and you're making a single stroke. And before, what we did was carve, and try to get this little teeny thing and keep it consistent all the way through. And you try to burn it. It never worked. And even one of the Kohler or whatever, the wood burner tip, they even made one with a lateral line. It was just too mechanical. That's why I like doing it by hand. So another thing with my patterns is I'll show you is when I get done, I've got these would always get lost. So what I did was I came up with this idea. I take and I cut them out right in the fish, and you can see I got my scales there and such, and now I'll never lose it. And you don't need to trace the pattern like this. It can be inside too, and so not a big deal. And then these lines, what I do see, this was back in the old days with cardboard. I would take and, I burn them. Now I know when I lay it down, I just take in my pencil and I know where everything is. So yeah, so that's kind of my pattern making 101. And I'll go in here and I'll, draw some scales here to see how big they are. Oh, my nostrils, I forgot those. They're usually the same place on every fish, right in front of the eye, right there. Oh, and I did them backwards.
How do you get the top profile?
The what?
The top profile.
The top profile. Yeah, you gotta just kind of sneak, you just gotta just kind of follow, and it's just kind of a thing.
No, but how, like from
The top view.
Oh, the top view?
Yeah.
I mean, you can get that crazy, but I would do the same thing like this. I would just hold it right here. I was gonna make a pattern book, and then I figured, oh, you need the top view and you need measurements and all this stuff, and okay, now someone wants to do this. It's one of those things where when you do it, this is the main thing. Then it's reference. Then you got to look, get a casting. That's what I rely on, because when you get the shape of the fish, you're going to get that profile. If you're doing it right. And I know that's kind of hard. I mean,
so then you just get a piece of wood that's the thickness that you want, of like the max thickness of that fish, and just carve it down.
You would think. You always want extra.
Okay.
Because for some reason, if you try not to be a wood waster and cut this out just like this, you're gonna have a fish with a flat spot on it with rounded tops every single time. I don't know why, and I've done it 100 times trying not to do that, and it just is. So another good thing too that I've done on weird fish is I just take a picture of them too, because I have the fish here. But your main thing that you want is this shape, and that's pretty good. That's a lot better than a lot of pattern books that are out there. They're very cartoonish, character-y kind of things. Oh, and this little bunger is going to go there. And one thing that I did forget to do was this goes here. This is where those fins are going to go. So I know those fins are going to go right there. And then this fin.
I'm one of Scott's former students some years ago. But, anybody else got a pencil quick? Thanks, Mr. Scott. So a lot of times for the top profile, see if this is your center line, you figure out that your fish is gonna look.
I think this is what I worried about that.
Something like this.
I gotta make them swim in circles.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll-
I got a drafting background too, so I can, I make my.
I'll exaggerate
I'll
the
get
width of
that.
the tail, because I'm not sure which way I
And
wanna
I'll
go.
go, and I'll make lines. and
Because you
I'll
want a little.
Right.
Make it the
And
top
then I'll take
pattern.
this, and
Right.
Top view
I'll take a piece
from
of,
that.
are you familiar with ethafoam?
My lines up and.
Ethafoam is
When I was going to do my pattern book, what I was going to do was I was going to take a fish and freeze it,
cut that out of
and put it
ethafoam.
on the bandsaw.
Then with that ethafoam, you can take your pattern, you can move
cross-section.
it. So if this is your pattern, and all of a sudden you took that
Mine are
ethafoam
more
and
cartoony
you
fish,
flex it,
real
I'll put
fish,
a
so.
pin in there, I'll put a pin there, and I can take that ethafoam and I can bend that pattern however I want.
Okay.
And then I get my top
And then you
profile.
can cut that top profile out.
And like Scott is saying, when you make your cut, make sure it's continuous, because if you stop, you won't get a flat spot and you'll be grinding and carving forever to get that out of there.
When I carve, this is all I do. And then I get close. This one's going to be a picture on a wall, so I'm just going to do just basically one side of it. And this is too thin for that, but this particular job, the guy wanted it on cabinet doors, so they had to be a little, they couldn't be they couldn't be perfect, so there was a flat spot on there. Yeah, that I don't worry about that. And also too, like Rich said, when you bend this, okay, my fish is this long, right? Okay, when I put a bend in it, now the fish is, well, yeah, is this long. So we lost about a ½ inch, and that's where I get in trouble a lot of times when guys, you know, well, you charged me, you know, this much. I'm like, well, when I bend the fish, it's going to lose an inch. So that was kind of what I thought. You know, this could translate. You know, when you're doing these lines, you know, like where the nostrils are going to be on a bird head, or you know where the lip line's going to be. You draw these little imaginary points of reference out there, and it helps you line things up a little better, and you know, you can go from there.
I do the same thing on my decoys. I'll make a mark on the pattern where the fins go. I'll put the fins, make a pattern off to the side like you do.
Right.
And then I'll just put a mark where they go.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So yeah,
That be as close to perfect as you do.
Well, yeah, and you know, I used to think you had to be, and I've got away from that now. You know, unless you're doing competition,
right?
There's so much detail you don't need to put in there, and one of the big things that I did when I first started carving fish, and you know, because there wasn't a whole lot of reference out there. There was no books. There was only 2 people had a book on carving fish. Bob Berry was one, and it was very, you know, if you didn't know how to carve, you couldn't do it really. I mean, you got some tips and techniques, but he kept a lot of stuff out of the book that he should have put in. Well, anyway, but just doing that, when I used to give seminars back in the show days, I would always say, you know, under here is where everybody screws up. My first fish doesn't look anything like it's supposed to, okay? Right here, you got these gill rays, okay? So you got the gill rays that are underneath there. A lot of times you can't see them when they're closed, but people put them in there all the time. I mean, artistic license, great. And I did. I put them in there. I mean, they go all the way up, like it was like flared. When it opens up, you know, that's when it flares. Okay, so then the other thing is right in here on this fish, it has a little flap, but you can see this kind of go over.
Is it left over right or right over left?
It is right over left. So as you're holding the fish away, this is a small detail, stupid, but when I was carving, I was like, well, how does that go? So I started studying it, and I noticed that this right one goes over there, over the left, every time.
So the fish is left.
The fish, yep. So you're holding it away, and this right side goes over the left. And I said, every time. I mean, I was looking at fish like you wouldn't believe. But there again, I did a seminar one year. The very next year, I was doing the seminar again, and these 3 guys from Louisiana said, you know what? We wanted to prove your ass wrong. And we looked at every single fish, and we caught one that was the opposite way. And I went, how many fish did you catch? So there is no rules. It can happen, and some fish, they don't even do that. Like I said, like this one right here, when I was gonna get into that, I was getting scared because I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's no overlap here. This is a flap and a flap, and the flap, you have to open up the flap, and then there it is. Usually that's in plain sight so you can see it, but look, I had to open it. And then, you know, these pockets, everyone gets messed up. So you just go and you can kind of take notes, you know, as you go on different things. And, you know, the big thing is, you know, counting your spines, because once you get into it, and here's the thing too. So I know there's 9 here, 9 here, and then I'll count these and I'll put these in later, and, you know, I'll do all that. When you start carving it, you never end up. You never end up with the right amount. It almost never. It's insane.
Hey, Scott, you want to, chat about the Tupelo that you use?
The Tupelo.
I mean, for, fish carving, I don't know if we do a little fish carving ourselves here, but
Well,
to get the thinness and the toughness, I mean, basswood or any other white cedar, stay away from it.
oh gosh, yeah.
The Tupelo
Yeah.
is gonna give you the ability to thin things down and get the detail.
You do all your
Right.
fins out of wood now.
Yeah, I do all my fins out of wood, and I leave these are always one piece. These are the only add-ons, and these are the only add-ons, and that's only because you gotta look for the grain, and you want that grain to be going for strength.
Sure.
Because if the grain was going this way,
Yeah,
they
it'd break all the
just
time.
snap.
I don't make any fish with wooden tails either for that reason.
Oh, well, yeah, you don't,
Make some, make
right.
some, but not very.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
with what you do, they
Yeah,
break all the
they
time.
always-
Even
always.
with the grain, they would break.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This Tupelo is expensive.
Yeah.
Don't use it ever again. I've got big blocks of it that Tom wants so bad, but I'm just not gonna sell it to him. But now I use catalpa and butternut.
Oh, sure. I remember those, yeah.
Catalpa, you can cut down, that's that bean tree. That's the tree with the big, huge beans. You can cut it down. The very next day, you can start carving on it. Your carving won't crack, split, check, anything. It's crazy stable. I cut big, buddy of mine cuts trees down, and he had this big one. And usually they hollow out and then they die. Well, this person wanted it gone, and so he cut it. He goes, Scott, I found one, it's not hollow, and it's crazy big. He goes, you want it? And I said, well, of course I do, you know that. So we ran it through the mill, and I cut slabs like this, and 8 feet long. Put them, figured off, 8 feet long, I'm gonna have to cut off some, it's gonna crack and what, no. It's on 3 years. They're still like the day I cut
Is
them.
that pretty heavy wood if I remember right?
No, it's light. It's light, just like it's like the basswood. Basswood, it's only good for fires, as far as I'm concerned. It gets fuzzy. The first fish I did, I thought, oh, I'm done. I sanded it, everything's all nice. I had it all detailed. I put the lacquer sealer on there. Like, what? So I sanded it all down, did it again. I had to do it like 4 times. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something different. Then I found the Tupelo, going to different shows and seminars and stuff. Found the Tupelo. And then I switched from the Tupelo to butternut. There used to be a guy that came here, Marv Meyer. I don't know if you ever met him or whatever, but he said, why are you using that stuff? Use this, And it's getting hard to find now because there's a bug that went through the butternut population and killed a lot of trees, but it's still out there and you can still find it. But I get it whenever I can. I cut it into big slabs. It checks and cracks at the end. You gotta let it dry, but it dries really quickly if you split it. Like I got a piece that's this big and I split it in half and then I let those 2 pieces sit. Probably 3-4 years I can start carving on it. And what Marv would do is he would get it and he would carve, he would get that, split it, and then he would carve all his bodies or cut out all his bodies, just rough them out.
Sure.
And then he just let them sit and they would dry faster that way. Some would crack, a little bit here and there, but he didn't, it didn't matter for him. I just love those too. And my new technique now is I carve a fish, I leave the whole backside wood. I completely do the one side, because you're only, when it's sitting on the shelf or on the wall, you're only looking at one side. And I got accused of a couple times, doing fish that they're repos or whatnot, because no one could tell, because I did the fish on both sides. Well, now I just do it on the one side. I charge the same, I only do half the fish.
Have you ever used any of that foam they use for some of the larger,
Yes.
How do you like that stuff?
It's fun, but
Do you have to seal that with anything after you got to fill the foam?
well, no, no, because you can get all these different densities now. And you can do it, but I have really no need to do it.
Because I mean, if you want to do a, 36, 40-inch door there, I mean, that's a big piece of wood. Why wouldn't you do it in foam,
Because it's not wood.
I know guys that do it.
Right.
Some people in Michigan.
There's a guy that he does, and to put it outside, it's more stable. But I use lacquer paint, and as soon as I hit it with the lacquer, the airbrush, it melts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the it's poly something, not polystyrene, but yeah, and it's not lacquer, it doesn't.
I've seen where they have a roller with scales on it.
Yep.
I don't do any scales in my.
Right, you don't need.
I don't have to. A lot of people do on their decoys,
but when
a lot of time.
when you do that, it just looks mechanical.
Yeah.
It looks reptilian. For a snake, it works really good. They're awesome for doing that.
Their scales are just so much more.
They're uniform.
consistent.
Yeah, they go around. They don't have the small belly scales, and then up here by the head scales, and then back by the tail here they get microscopic. And I mean, look at how small these scales are right here. Look at how small those scales are right there.
Yeah. What kind of tip do you use to burn them?
So my tip goes like that, and then it looks like that. It's just got a very slim point on it.
Oh, okay.
And then this is the wire right there.
So it's, so you can make them bigger or smaller and.
Right.
Yeah, just, oh, yeah.
And I've got about 3 or 4 different sizes of those, because I figured, you're gonna need that. No, it's the same one.
Use the same one. I've got the white ones that are, like a scale, but
Right.
I just hate, it takes so much time. I used to wood burn feathers when I was too, I just hated it.
Right,
I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, when you feel this fish, you can feel the scales, but there's really, they're basically smooth.
Yeah.
And when you wood burn those in there just so, it just adds the perfect texture. It's fine. And technically, no one does scales right, because each scale has growth rings on it. And if you were gonna if you were gonna be like the super decoy carver guys are, I can't even imagine how many hours you'd have to do a fish completely right. Good seeing you again.
I gotta run too. I got a long drive, but thank you very much.
Hey, no problem. Hope you got something out of it.
Oh, I did.
Good.
Now I gotta buy more.
Yeah, to have it